Anyway, folks, I don't know what this article is about, because I'm a professional newscaster, but I decided I would take this article and I would read it live on stream, and then we can all learn what it's about together. So let's do that. This is from NPR. Biden signals support for voting rights. Wow, look at this. This is a great picture. This reminds me of that like Hillary Clinton in someone's kitchen picture where like Joe Biden's like, don't look at me right now. Like, what is that? It's like, whoa. Anyway, as Republicans in state houses across this country introduce hundreds of bills raising barriers to vote, President Biden is issuing a new executive order signaling his administration's commitment to expanding, not shrinking, voting access and rights. Now, again, I want to remind everyone that all Democrats need to do right now is pass a couple pieces of legislation, and then they will probably have control over government for a significant period of time. Right now, I think the disparity is like, the Senate's 50-50 right now, but the Democrats represent 40 million more people in their states, like the way that the states are partitioned. They represent 40 million more people, and that's a lot in a country where only 200 million vote on a good day, if you're lucky, which we're never that lucky. So I want you to understand that. Among other things, the order directs federal agencies to put together plans to promote voter registration and participation. It also directs the General Services Administration to put together a plan improving the accessibility and user experience of vote.gov. Federal agencies will also be ordered to examine how they can increase federal employees' voting access or ability to take time off of work to serve as poll workers. The order appears to be more about signaling Biden's policy priorities than enacting major changes in federal voting rights policies. I don't know what the executive is capable of doing. I really don't. But I do know that they need to do this. They need to nuke the filibuster, and they need to pass S1, which is the voting rights thing. Expansive new federal protections for voting rights would only come via a new voting rights bill. The House passed a broad voting measure last week. What we really need to do is have a constitutional amendment that says every citizen above the age of 16 should have the right to vote. That's what I think. And I would even go as far as 14 if you're voting in a Senate election. But anyway, expansive new federal protections for voting rights would only come via a new voting rights bill. The House passed a broad voting measure last week. It would mandate automatic voter registration, bar state voter ID laws, and restore voting rights for felons, among other changes. But the legislation, H.R. 1, appears blocked, for now, by Senate rules requiring support from 60 senators for bills to advance. Republicans in Congress are united in opposing the measure authored by Democrats, former President Trump's false claims of widespread voter fraud, while rejected by federal judge after federal judge, have further galvanized the Republican Party into pushing for more barriers in the voting process, including restrictions on early voting dates and more identification requirements for mail-in ballots, among other proposals in dozens of state houses. Again, the idea that we just don't have one person, one vote in this country, is just a little bit ridiculous. If you look at all these other countries, we're look at Bolivia, for example, right? Remember how we being the United States of America, just decided to participate in a coup that overthrew the government for a year because we were, how dare you count the votes that quickly, right? And then in our election, we have the president of the United States pretend that the election was stolen, and it took weeks to count votes. I don't know, man. This technology that we use, is so ridiculous. It's so outdated. The laws that we have, voter ID and restrictions, so disgusting, so bizarre, right? The fact that we don't have it be a federal, holiday for voting day. The fact that you have to, go to a voting booth and you can't, why can't you just vote online or something? I don't know, man. This whole thing is just a disaster. And it needs a complete overhaul, in my opinion, and this bill is the start of that. Every eligible voter should be able to vote and have it counted, Biden will say in a pre-recorded message that will be played on Sunday at a virtual gathering honoring the anniversary of the racist police attack on the Selma to Montgomery voting rights march led by John Lewis. If you have the best ideas, you have nothing to hide, Biden will say. Let more people vote. I love that Biden will say, like, yeah, we got this tape in advance. We could just show you the tape, but now we're just going to tell you what he will say. Biden's message comes just days after the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments in a case that would uphold restrictive voting laws in Arizona. But yes, I mean, that's good. I really, like, this is one of the most important things that could be done, I think, with the control that the Democrats have of the Senate, the House, and the presidency, is to, like, just expand voting rights. Because, again, when you've got a Senate where half of the Senate represents 40 million, more people than the other half, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Look at the Electoral College. That should be abolished as well. We need a constitutional amendment to guarantee the right to vote, in my opinion, for every citizen above the age of 16. And I will hear the argument for the age of 14 when it comes to Senate terms. I also don't know why Senate terms are 6 fucking years. Who came up with that bullshit? Like 6-year terms? Are you joking? Like what? Like, I guess that's better than having a governor appoint them or whatever. But 6-year terms? What? You know, like what? From an hour ago, Biden still opposes gutting the filibuster. What a gutless fucking freak. Joe Biden? People think banishing the Electoral College would lead to a virtually one-party system. I agree, that would be good. There's little to no difference between a one-party system and a multi-party system. I think a one-party system is a lot more easily achievable in this country, though, personally. And I'm willing to go in on that. I think the world would be a better place if the Republican Party were destroyed. Expand voting rights, declare them a terrorist organization, and have Democrats control government. I have no problem with that. None whatsoever. Because when you look at the way the Democratic Party functions, you have Joe Manchin, who voted to ban trans kids from sports, right? Which is like, okay. And you've got AOC, who wants to give $2,000 a month to every citizen. So, the way I see it, getting rid of the Republicans, okay, we don't need them. We basically have a one-party system. We do, I guess, if you take that, like, corporatocracy thing, like, super seriously. But the problem with that is that, like, they are different parties. And that, like, you know, with the culture war and the I'm red versus blue, man, shit. You know, that's a big problem. Whereas if you do have everyone in one party, people are less likely to do that stupid team sports mentality, and they're more likely to talk about the issues. But that's my opinion. I think a multi-party system and a one-party system in the United States would be functionally identical. Assuming that one party is the Democratic Party. But that's, you know, that's the way I see it. I think we should have a no-party system, to be honest with you. People should be elected on their ideas and only their ideas. But that's my take.